So, when I was in college, I was the lone artist type. Now, let me explain what that means. I would sit by myself, or generally keep to myself, and just work. And the goal for me was, I want to become the best animator. Just do it. And the hard work, it seemed to pay off, because my first job out of college was at Pixar Animation Studios. I was a summer animation intern. I was like, yes, yeah, it's great. When I first walked into the Pixar campus, it was just like beautiful. I'd never seen anything like it. Fun, open. It just seemed like a wonderful place to be a creative person. There were just like geniuses, creative geniuses, just walking around everywhere. Even the other animation interns, roughly 12 of them in total, were all hand-selected from thousands of applicants. I should have been so excited to be a part of that group. But you know what I was thinking? I was like, fuck. I hope I'm not the worst one. Oh, God. Please don't let me be the worst. Like, I would walk around looking at people's desks, totally cool, nonchalant. And if I'd see somebody's work that maybe wasn't that good, I'd be like, okay, cool. But inside, I'd be like, yes, yes, I'm not the worst one. But inevitably, I would walk by someone else's desk, and they'd be doing amazing work. And I would, again, I'd just be like, oh, okay, cool, let's go. But inside, I'd be like, no. How do you even do that? How did you do that? And I'd run back to my desk, and I'd delete all my work, and I would just sit there freaking out. Like, how do I make people think that I know what I'm doing? I was making my experience a nightmare. And it was all because I was so insecure about how I stacked up against the other interns. And insecurity, it's like, it's a shitty kind of fear. It doesn't feel like a real fear. It's not like, like getting your arm ripped off, or like the fear of losing someone you love. So I was ashamed of it, and that made me even more insecure. So I hid it from everyone, I hid it from myself, and I just hoped that if I buckled down and worked through it, that success could be the cure. That, maybe if I got hired at Pixar, that my success, that would make me confident, certainly. Boom. Well, after a whole summer of freaking out, of desperation, of self-imposed stress and anxiety, I was the only intern out of the 12 that was not selected to stay at Pixar. I was like, I had the talent, but I was a mess. I mean, I kept deleting my work. I was trying to please everyone at once. And I barely finished my assignments on time. So my first entry into my resume, which people look at and they're like, awesome, like, yeah, Pixar, cool, right? For me, it was just a mark of failure. But I was pretty good at animation, so a few months later, I landed a contract job working on the Halo franchise. And I was like, yes, success! That's even better than being an intern. But it was a temporary position, and the real big dogs at Bungie, they were full-time. And I thought, maybe that's the key. If I become a full-time animator, then certainly my insecurity and my fears will just wash away. So I buckled down, I hid my fears again, I resumed my manic, self-involved work habits, and 2 years later, when the contract was up, again, I was not one of the ones selected to stay on full-time. And I could barely stomach the success of the people around me. Like, they would come in and their desk would just be covered in free shit. Like, here, have an Xbox. Here's some video games. Have a t-shirt. Why not a hoodie? And I'm just sitting there like, my ego's so fragile. Like, I'm just fuming. I'm not even allowed to have free bagels on Free Bagel Wednesday. And so again, the line in my resume did nothing for my insecurity. But I was good at animation. Like, please, just believe that. I was. And so a few months later, I caught the attention of Blizzard Entertainment. And I secured an interview for a full-time position. And I was like, yes! I walked into the conference room. It was full of 6 animators I'd never met. The room felt like cold and humorless. And I did my best, again, to hide my fears and look really confident. But then they pulled up one of my walk cycles, this one. And they asked me, how would you make this more robotic? And I just blanked. Like, I don't know what to say. On my own, I would have gotten up and acted it out, maybe figured something out, but that was like a really personal and scary thing to do in front of all these strangers. But I couldn't just sit there and say nothing, so eventually I got up. And I started thinking to myself, like, I don't know, maybe it's like a junkyard robot, barely held together, arms flopping around, head swiveling. Or maybe it is an assassin robot, always focused on target, head always level. Or perhaps it is a soulless automaton, making plastic cups. No human emotions. Now, of course, I wasn't saying any of these thoughts aloud. I was just walking around the conference room like a robot. But something magical happened. Like when I looked at everybody, they were smiling, they were nodding, they were gesturing. Suddenly I felt this wash of relief. I felt accepted. And the rest of the interview seemed to go great. Now, there was a really important lesson to be learned from that moment, but I didn't get it. I was just thinking like, did I get the job? Right? And I did. Yes. I mean, boom. That's it. Full-time animator. This should be the end of my story. I should just walk off stage right now. This is when all my insecurities went away. All my fears are gone. Everything was going to be different now, you know. As long as my boss liked me. As long as they didn't fire me. No, seriously, as long as they didn't fire me. Holy shit, what if they fired me? And just like that, I went back to being the same old insecure Tomáš. And I mean, what the heck? Like, I was banking on this. Like, I have it. This is supposed to be my time. Like, I was a full-time animator. Why am I still scared? I was really banking on the idea that success was going to make me less afraid. But it didn't. I was still insecure. And I hated it. I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. So I went back to just being the same old me and just trying to power through it. But then my life got freaking turned upside down by, of all things, a freaking text message. Let me explain. So there was this guy, Brad, who another animator who sat next to me at Blizzard. Now, you know what? Just to illustrate for you, this is me at the time of Blizzard. I think by the look on my face, I'm like playing the Wii rather intently. And then there was Brad. Holy shit! That was maybe like a character I would play as in a video game. So awesome. Like, I just wanted to impress him so badly. I wanted him to like me, but that seemed impossible. But then one weekend, I got this text. And I just looked at it like, what? Why is Vin Diesel texting me? Like, what does he want? What do I even say? Is this about work? Is this about my performance? And I ignored it. I was like, I'll just put it off. And eventually, I avoided responding to it altogether. And I thought to myself, you know what? Brad's like freaking Superman. Like, he won't care that I didn't respond to a text message. Well, the next day, I came into work and sat down, and Brad just watched me with his freaking gorgeous killer eyes. And he took his headphones off. He walked right up to me. And he was like, dude, why don't you respond to my text? That made me feel sad. And I was just like, direct confrontation about emotions. I'm still processing that Vin Diesel can feel sadness. And then something clicked, something that hadn't clicked for so long. Like, my insecurity was having an effect on other people. It hurt Brad's feelings. And who knows what else I had been affecting. Like, thinking back, I was just like, oh, when I had gone to that Blizzard interview and I thought the room was so cold and humorless, it's like, oh shit, that was me. I had come into the room completely reserved and unwilling to show my fears. Once I had walked around like a robot, been vulnerable, everyone had immediately relaxed. And the rest of the interview had gone great. Now that's what I'm really trying to get at here, is the idea of being vulnerable. It's the biggest lesson because innovation and creativity, it requires you to be vulnerable. And it's more than that. It's also the key to connecting with other innovators. Like even the text message story is rooted in vulnerability. Because when Brad had met me, this breaks my heart, man. When Brad had met me, he had gone home and nerded out to his girlfriend. He had been like, I met this guy at work. Dude used to be at Pixar. Freaking likes all the same shit I like. He seems really cool. I'm gonna go down to the beach with Tomáš, grab us some Starbucks, talk about animation, comic books. I might even show him some of the short stories I wrote. Hold on, he gets it. Let me just send him a text. And I hadn't responded. I had stifled Brad in his moment of vulnerability when he was reaching out to me. And once I realized that, I got this determination to never be like that again. Like, I want to be someone that people can be vulnerable around, people like Brad. And so when Brad and I joined Riot Games in 2012, the studio behind League of Legends, I made a concerted effort to be open and vulnerable. And as a result, I became a larger and larger part of that unexpected creative magic. Like, for instance, we were having a statue made of one of our iconic characters named Rise. Brad and I got together with another animator, and we decided to try to figure out how this statue might look. Here's an edit of the brainstorm. I almost feel like I should do some push-ups first so I can feel like...
This is all being recorded, by the way. Recording.
Oh, my thighs are tired. Yeah.
It's too hard. It's like the push off
Okay, what else is Rise 2?
What else was Rise there? That was cool. That was cool. Oh, those are really cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, dude.
So another one of our artists was inspired by this pose, made his own version, and then those two poses ultimately inspired the sculptor that made the final result. And here it is at one of our events, looking awesome. Now, it's a funny thing, that brainstorm, it looks funny, it looks silly, but it's easy to forget that it's actually really scary. Like, it doesn't just happen. Those things don't just happen. It takes someone getting up in front of their peers and screaming. That was really uncomfortable, right? And they have to do it in the face of people like the younger version of me who would just sit in the safety of the sidelines and watch. If I could tell that younger version of me some advice, it would be this. Tomáš, freaking be vulnerable. Commit to your ideas. Scream like a sorcerer. Be an assassin robot. Do whatever it takes. And start now, because the success you're chasing, it isn't going to help. And I won't lie, Tomáš, it's never going to be easy. You're always going to be afraid. You're always going to be insecure. The thing is, it's okay. You're supposed to be afraid. Insecurity is a real fear. And when you see the people you idolize, guess what? They're scared shitless too. So when you see someone else struggling to accomplish something, being vulnerable, don't you dare just watch. Get in there and participate. Be a part of it. And if you do, you might find that one day you work with people you love, and it will be a deep love built from failure, from acceptance, from mutual respect, from vulnerability. And together you'll be able to do things that you could have never done alone. And what will blow your little mind, Tomáš, is that they will love you too. And it'll be for the very acts that you were so afraid to show them. Or, at least they'll respond to your texts. Thank you.